On this edition of Independent Sources, the invisible population, the changing face of homelessness as more elderly New Yorkers seek shelter.
And senior support, trying to make life easier for seniors in one Brooklyn community.
Welcome to Independent Sources. I'm Gary Pierre-Pierre.
And I'm Vianora Vinca. Look around you on a daily basis. You are very likely to see an elderly person who is homeless, although you might not realize it. These seniors are not panhandling and they're not showing signs of psychiatric imbalance. They're just waiting quietly for the gourmet shop to close and put out their garbage. Or maybe they're standing online at the supermarket counting their pennies to buy a single item for their daily meal.
There are over 40,000 homeless people in shelters in New York City on any given night. That's not counting the other estimated thousands huddled in darkened corners and under cardboard roofs looking for shelter.
Tonight, we're going to look at that specific group in the growing population of homeless New Yorkers, the elderly. They are particularly at risk at a time when the cost of living in the city is skyrocketing, and the country's economic crisis has left many older citizens unemployed.
I spoke with Dr. Pierre-Pierre, the Director of Policy Management at a shelter that caters specifically to the elderly. We talked about how the profile of these seniors is changing and what the city is doing to deal with this ballooning population.
But first, Judith Escalona introduces us to one woman who looked forward to a carefree retirement. But what she found was far more grim, humiliation and struggle when she became homeless after she lost her job and her husband's medical bills became too burdensome.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go in here to change so I can get ready for tonight.
Arvinetta Henry is 63 years old and homeless. Every day she rises early in the morning to be out of the Jamaica Next Step shelter by 7 a.m. and to return by 8 p.m.
I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning so I can go take a shower without the company of other people. And I'm out of the building at 6:45, and then I go to church and I head back. Sometimes I'm late. I lose my bed.
Henry wasn't always homeless. She is a former public school teacher who saw her middle-class life slip through her fingers when her husband became ill.
He's in a nursing home, medical expense and everything. The mortgage, it wasn't our mortgage, but we were staying in a house, and the mortgage was not being paid. And we didn't know this. And the next thing we know, the landlord was in foreclosure.
That began her downward slide. With savings depleted, Henry clung to her job, hoping to find an apartment she could afford. She sought help from the city and was sent to the shelter in Queens, away from the Bronx where she has lived and worked her entire life.
I was informed that it was a working shelter, that people that work for the city would go there, so this way they would be with population of their means and so forth. And when I arrived, the staff developer told me that it was a punishment shelter for clients that were non-compliant.
That was 4 years ago. Henry's job was her last grip on the life she once knew.
I ended up having to stop teaching because they insist that I go get public assistant. And I kept saying, I do not want public assistant. And they said, well, Miss Henry, if you don't get public assistant, you are what we call non-compliance.
She signed up for welfare and landed a low-paying job through its work program, WEB, the Work Experience Program, better known as Workfare. She didn't qualify.
The director of the WEB program stood in front of my caseworker and told him, she's too old. I said, I'm what? You, Miss Henry, you are over 55. And the city cannot have you working. I said, I need to go to work. I need something to do.
At the Jamaica Next Step shelter, she's had to adjust to stringent house rules.
I was informed that I couldn't use the elevator. I'm over 60. That doesn't matter. Only people that use the elevator is the staff.
But the clients themselves present a challenge to the elderly. Henry has been harassed and robbed by them.
I have been intimidated by the clients. I've had an altercation because the client figured that I was old and I wouldn't stand up.
Jobless and homeless, Arvinetta Henry is still hopeful. At Picture the Homeless, an advocacy group for the homeless located in the Bronx, Henry has found a safe haven and is reclaiming her self-worth by helping other homeless people. I'm Judith Escalona, Independent Sources.
Pierre, the old image of a homeless person in New York City is that of a mostly mentally unstable person who has drug and alcohol problem. But that picture is changing. So what is the image these days?
Today we're experiencing another kind of homeless person. What you say was definitely during the 80s or the 90s. Generally, a woman in a shelter was a woman with a mental health problem, or a man in a shelter was a person with alcohol or a drug addiction. Today, we're experiencing a new kind of homeless, what we define as economic homeless. Okay. And among the elderly, the older individuals, we see people, homeless people, because of the economic crisis, people that they're maybe entitled to Social Security, but they don't have like the money to afford an apartment in New York City.
There's also a lot of new immigrants joining these ranks.
Definitely. There is, together with the baby boomer, and we also have like a new wave of immigrants, people coming from Latin America or from different parts of the world. But they're not entitled to Social Security or to supplemental security income. And they don't know, they don't have information about their entitlement and the programs available. So it's very difficult to find an apartment.
You know, that's kind of counterintuitive, because we used to think of the immigrant having that close-knit environment. Somebody will take you in because they're from the old country, they know your family. And so what's happening? Is the economic situation so dire that a lot of these families cannot take an extra person in?
Right, the situation is pretty dramatic. It's pretty dramatic because the population that the Institute for the Puerto Rican Hispanic Elderly serve are mostly older Latino. And there is still a very strong sense of family and what is called the familismo. You know, the family, they all stay together. But it's very hard, like to bring in the parents and to help them with the house, you know, even having them living with you. And because of the economic recession, and because there is a very drastic cut in the program for social services programs.
And speaking of social service program, there's block grants under attack. $1.7 billion has been cut from the budget, and states are scrambling to deal with the elderly services and other social services. So what is going to happen?
We are we're working together with the Department for the Aging, and we try to stop. We don't want this the block grant to stop. and we need help for assisting these individuals that are at risk of becoming homeless or going to a shelter. And what we need for them is case management, which is what my agency provide. We help them navigate the system.
Tell us the name of your agency.
Yes, it's the Institute for the Puerto Rican and Hispanic Elderly, and is a citywide agency, multicultural and with different programs. So we run 9 senior centers in the city and also different programs such as El SEMI. El SEMI is a housing development with a target on homeless Hispanic women. It's in the heart of El Barrio in East Harlem and in Manhattan. And we have several applications. It's a small place. We have 60 rooms, but for every room there are at least 12 people waiting.
12 people per room.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what are you doing with the city to help address this problem?
The way the El SEMI works, we take application from 40 of the individuals that live in El SEMI are referred by the Department for the Homeless, and the other are coming from the community. And what we're experiencing is, especially in East Harlem, an increasing number of older individuals that are homeless and are looking for a shelter, for a place to live.
Are these places, do these elderly face violence? Are these places terrible place for these homeless people?
Right. As I said before, there is now anymore a big percentage of alcohol or drug abuse. An interesting phenomenon now are the individuals between 50 and 65 years old, because they generally fall into the crack of the government because of the lack of assistance, because they're not entitled to Medicare or to Social Security, but they're physically, because of the poverty,
they can work,
ill,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they are, they're sick, an 80 years old individual. So there is not much we can do for them.
I mean, there's got to be something to be done, because otherwise these people are living in limbo.
Right.
How is the city addressing the situation? I mean, there's only so much that your agency can do, but citywide, what's happening? How is the Bloomberg administration tackling this problem?
I don't think the city is doing too much right now, and they're trying to reduce the deficit by cutting social services for homeless and for elderly individuals. But I think the problem is going to become, if we don't prevent, if we don't help them, preventing the homeless problem, this is going to become a huge issue.
There are a lot of homeless organizations in the city. Have you guys gotten together and put out a plan of action to really stop this bleeding?
Definitely. There is a coalition for the homeless in New York City, and my agency, it's part of it, but we only have one institution working directly with the homeless. Our main work is with the senior centers.
Okay, and then what do you do at the senior centers?
At the senior center, we provide the case assistance, we provide meal. Generally, we provide breakfast and lunch, and we provide recreational, educational activities for people 65 years and older. And can be immigrants, can be New Yorkers, people, and we have senior center around the 5 boroughs.
Do you have a program where you try to connect these elderly with either relatives or family that want to take them in? Is there something like foster care for the elderly?
Right, it's a very good question. One of the new interesting phenomenon is also what is called the kin care. We have several grandparents that are, they're at risk of becoming homeless. So the family is bringing them in, and they're become the primary caregivers for the children. So, we have also this interesting phenomenon of grandparents taking care of grandchildren. So we try to promote some multi-generational program where we have older people helping with younger. And but there is no a clear policy of how to incorporate them into the society, into the community.
Again, let's talk about some of the tactics you're using to, first of all, stop these cuts.
Right.
And from the state, city, and the federal government, what are some of the things that you guys are doing to make sure that these much-needed resources are not wiped out?
Right. One of the things that we do, it is among our educational activities, is to promote some financial literacy. One of the problems among like the Hispanic population is people are living and working in the United States for several years. After 10 years, they're entitled to Social Security, but they don't have any saving. So that there is no saving, there is no plans for retirements. So it's absolutely impossible right now to live only on Social Security or live on supplemental security income, which in New York is only $800. So you cannot just live on Social Security, you need additional money. So we try to educate them about the necessity of saving money, have some retirement plan, and have a part-time job even after you are retired. And this is what we try. We try to focus on education and prevention. And I think it's the best tactic.
All right, well, good work. Pierre Scarfo, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Still to come on Independent Sources, Bedford-Stuyvesant organizations trying to improve the quality of life for the community's senior citizens.
Before that, Abby Ishola has some other news.
Thanks, Gary. Here's a look at some headlines from the ethnic media. Members of the Korean community in New York are protesting in the wake of the city budget cuts that have eliminated nearly 200 after-school programs. NewsCon reports that the Korean American Family Service Center is on the verge of closing its free after-school program called Hodori due to city budget cuts. The program offers services like homework sessions and etiquette lessons to low-income families in the community. The YWCA in Queens, which offers career training and GED preparation, is also in jeopardy. The Korean American Association of Greater New York, the Korean American Association of Queens, and the Korean Services of New York recently held a rally demanding continued financial support from the city. From DNAinfo.com, New York's fire department has seen a surge in the number of women and minority applicants 2 years after a judge condemned the FDNY for discrimination. Since then, the fire department has made changes to its exam and conducted an outreach campaign to minorities. Those efforts proved to be effective. This past spring, close to 2,000 people of color took the exam to become a firefighter. That's up to 130% from the last time the test was offered in 2007. Over 1,900 women also took the exam. One reporter at The Forward has managed to unearth a hidden letter written by George Washington. Over a year ago, reporter Paul Berger attended a lecture where he learned about an original letter written by George Washington that had been locked away for nearly a decade. Jewish historian Jonathan Sarna called the letter written on religious freedom one of the most important documents in American history. Berger was intrigued and began an investigative series to find out what happened to the letter. He also called for it to be made public. The Forward recently learned that the document will be returned to public view at the National Museum of American Jewish History this summer. From El Diario La Prensa, bodega owners are worried about 7-Eleven expanding its presence throughout the city. 7-Eleven recently announced that it plans to open more than 40 stores over the course of 1 year and 350 stores within 5 to 7 years. This would double the presence of the convenience store chain in the city. Bodega owners fear this would cut into their profits, and they fear being displaced. Members of the Bodega Association of the United States have worked out a deal with 7-Eleven that would allow bodega owners to convert their businesses into 7-Eleven stores and maintain ownership. And finally, Japanese hairstylists in the East Village have introduced a new style to New Yorkers. DNAinfo.com reports that several Japanese hair salons clustered around the East Village have become popular for offering the Harajuku-style cut to New Yorkers. The Harajuku suburb in Japan is famous for wild street fashion. Patrons from these shops, including Japanese expats and Caucasians, say the hairdressers understand how to work with thicker and more textured hair. The haircuts take up to an hour and include a head and neck massage. Those were just a few headlines from the ethnic media. Back to Gary and Vianora.
Thanks, Abby. Finally from us tonight, the Coalition for the Improvement of Bedford-Stuyvesant, along with 2 other organizations, have joined forces to launch the city's 3rd Aging Improvement District.
The initiative is part of the Age-Friendly New York City program led by the City Council and the Mayor's Office.
I spoke with Melissa Lee and Aisu Kirak from the Coalition for the Improvement of Bedford-Stuyvesant. We talked about the measures being taken to assist the community's seniors at a time when so many of them are living in poverty. Statistics have it that about a third of the elderly in New York City live in poverty or on less than $10,000 a year. What's the picture for Bed-Stuy?
So unfortunately, those statistics ring true in Bedford-Stuyvesant. We are a community of about 140,000 residents in total. There's almost 13,000 residents in our community that are 65 or older or seniors. And we have done some statistical analysis, and about 30% are living below the poverty line.
Now, let's talk about this program and what it aims to do. If you could, Aisu, go into details about some of the major things that are in the planning.
Absolutely. So we've spent about the last 6 months talking with seniors in the community, going to senior centers, the local churches, block associations, and even meeting with seniors in their home who are have mobility access issues. And really, we've heard a number of different concerns, and we've identified about 8 that are the most urgent and reoccurring in our conversations with these seniors. And they are banking, really, access to healthy foods, revitalizing Bed-Stuy, providing cultural and recreation activities. We've also heard often, time and time again, about housing access and affordable housing.
Let's talk about banking, since you started with it. One of the issues that older people living in Bed-Stuy and everywhere in New York City is going to be that as of March 31st, 2013, the U.S. Department of Treasury will switch to electronic payments. Their Social Security checks will not be printed any longer. So how are you going to address that?
We really want to make sure that our seniors are prepared for that change and really know how to navigate the maze of financial information out there. So we'll be working with local banks to create an outreach campaign this summer that really provides seniors with the information they need and really empower them to make better choices around their banking options. We'll be going out to all the seniors we've spoken with over the last 6 months, kind of meeting with them personally, bringing out financial counseling if necessary, helping them, actually go to the banks and learn about the options out there.
How confident are you that this will work, though? Are there concerns on their part that they might not simply want to go to the bank and learn to go through all this process? Yes, Melissa? Mm-hmm.
That is a challenge. I mean, that's a huge cultural shift. As we know, most of our seniors grew up at an age where paper checks were the norm. It's what they're comfortable with, and it's what they know. Electronic banking is a new venture for them. So it's going to take a partnership with ourselves and the seniors to shift that culture.
One of the goals that you also have is encourage businesses, because this aims to be a public-private partnership, and you want to encourage businesses to voluntarily adopt amenities for the elderly, like window stickers that identify businesses as age-friendly. Talk a little bit about that, Melissa.
Absolutely. So we have very distinct and major commercial corridors that serve Bedford-Stuyvesant. We have relationships with the merchant associations and the businesses themselves. So we would like to engage them in this conversation around how to make sure they can assist in senior needs. So we'll be reaching out to every business district, particularly key businesses along those districts, to figure out what they can do to contribute to seniors, because at the end of the day, they are consumers and shoppers, and they do prefer to shop locally. So if we can capture their dollars within the neighborhood and help the businesses thrive and grow, it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Aisu, you want to add to that?
I did. So some of the steps we'd like to encourage local businesses to take to be age-friendly is really to offer personal shoppers, if necessary, wider aisles for mobility access, chairs seating in the stores so that seniors can take a rest if needed. Also for our businesses to possibly hire seniors who might need work. So these are just some of the ways that businesses can be age-friendly and some of the ways that we'll be working with our local retailers.
A lot of it in this instance, though, seems to be falling on the businesses rather than what the city can do for them specifically. And there have been major cuts happening, senior centers being closed by the dozens, and how this will really help in this whole context, Melissa?
That's an excellent question, and we're very attuned to that. And within this partnership are our elected officials. We work very closely with them while we are shaping and developing the Bed-Stuy Aging Improvement District. Those are things that are definitely on the forefront of our planning efforts. What we want to do in the short interim is to at least start the dialogue and start rolling out programs and services that are easy to facilitate. But we also do plan within the Aging Improvement District context is to create advocacy programs for seniors specifically around some of these issues in partnership with our elected officials.
So what other things do you have in plan? You mentioned housing and ensuring affordable housing for seniors. How is that possible when there's been so many issues with that and older people are being pushed out of neighborhoods because of gentrification and so on?
Absolutely. So we've kind of just begun the stage to look at housing in the neighborhood. We work with a lot of the local community development organizations, and so we've met with them to really create kind of a white paper around the issue to really understand it. And we've also done some mapping research to really find out where the key need is. And we hope to, in the next phase of implementation, to actually kind of create some initiatives around housing, be it house sharing or more development, really just looking at it first and then moving forward from there.
I just have to say that while reading all about this initiative, which any initiative to help elderly is to be appreciated. I keep seeing that there's a focus on putting more benches on the street to help the elderly get from point A to point B. And I want to quote here Councilwoman Gail Brewer of the Upper West Side, who said, "Senior centers are great, but they have a stigma, whether you like it or not. It's just not for everybody, but what is for everybody is a bench." Does it all boil to that when so many older people are living under poverty and have been impacted from these centers being closed?
I will say that New York City is made up of neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has its own story and its own personality and its own context. So for Bedford-Stuyvesant, our personality or story has been to engage seniors. We would like to provide services and programs that immediately we can get off the ground, and we would also like to work in partnership with them to advocate for the needs and ongoing services that they need, like making sure they have a place like a senior center to go, or a recreational center, or they have options for social engagement and cultural exchange. So I think for our specific improvement district, we are looking at it from soup to nuts, what we can easily facilitate and what we need to advocate on the long term.
We have to end the discussion here. Melissa Lee and Aisu Kirak, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Do your part. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank today.
That's our show this week. Thanks for staying tuned.
Till next time, be independent-minded.